I guess that's a good segue into some interesting other Twitter drama that I saw today. This was super weird and unexpected, and I definitely have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I did not see this and know what was going down, so I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, that's no problem. You can just give any thoughts that you have. But basically, Liam O'Mara, who's actually a friend of our show and repeated guest, he's been on our program twice now. Once when he was running for Congress for the 2020 cycle, and again more recently when he declared his candidacy for the 2022 cycle. He's running for Congress in California, I believe, maybe like the 42nd district or something like that. There's a lot of districts in California, so it's hard to remember. But anyway, he's a really good populist left Democratic candidate. To give some context, Candace Owens tweeted this out, and I'll pull this up. Candace Owens, of course, notorious right-wing grifter. She left the left a couple years ago, and ever since has just been the token woman of color that the right wing basically, has tell other people of color that it's in their best interest to support the GOP, which of course is laughable and counterproductive to any community that's marginalized, certainly, and all communities except for the elite wealthy ones. Anyway, Candace Owens tweeted out, the number one violent offenders against Black people are other Black people. The number one violent offenders against Asian Americans are also Black people. But both hashtag Black Lives Matter and hashtag Asian Lives Matter are campaigns dedicated to stomping out white supremacy because clown world. So basically making fun of the entire Black Lives Matter and Asian Lives Matter movement, and basically doing what we were talking about yesterday while discussing Hate Inc., which is taking statistics that might technically be true, but then blowing them up without any context and omitting other key information to make an incredibly racist point and to apologize for genuine white supremacists and racist sentiment in this country. Again, it's impossible to deny the history of racism in this country, which has affected our population and which continues to affect, marginalized communities of color, which suffer from, lack of generational wealth and systemic oppression, which has been reinforced through years of Jim Crow and also, the crime bill, which has been called the new Jim Crow. Obviously, the oppression of Black people continues in this country. It's never stopped. And again, to completely omit context such as that and the over-policed areas that, education is tied to housing income or tax income, for example. So, people are growing up in communities without the same resources economically, educationally, etc. Again, completely omitting those facts to apologize for racism, for white racism and white supremacy in America. So, this is just a classic Candace Owens tweet, a completely disingenuous and offensive statement, frankly. And I thought it was, totally fair for Liam O'Mara to call that out. And he did so in the form of this response. He tweeted this picture of it looks like a napkin that looks like a Klan hood. So I thought this was hilarious because not only is it look like a Klan hood, but it's also a piece of trash. So it kind of implying that she's a racist piece of trash, which she is. So again, nothing wrong with this tweet. Great response to a vitriolic and disgusting.
I may actually disagree with you slightly, actually, on this. I think we have a slightly different take on this. My take on this isn't that like Liam is like some like racist, but I'm gonna be real and say that I don't love this tweet. I think there's something I don't love the idea of using Klan iconography to come after an African American woman. I just don't.
Candace Owens is quite literally a paid spokesperson for the Republican Party, which has no interest in the Black community and which quite literally has apologized for literal Klansmen and included them within their party.
Those things are all true. And I don't like it. I don't love it.
I mean, I personally, I think it's completely appropriate. Candace Owens and her ilk are the first people to point at others and accuse them of cancel culture and accuse them of pulling the race card, for example. Someone like Candace Owens would easily point towards another Black person who's crying racism accurately, mind you, and say, why are you pulling the race card? This has nothing to do with race. Just like in her tweet that this is a response to, she basically underplays racism at every point. Now she's selectively using the charge to accuse Liam of being a racist himself. So it's a misapplication of racism when every other time racism rears its head, Candace Owens is the first to apologize or deny it. She's basically selectively charging someone with something that she undercuts and undermines at every other instance. You'll see here that apparently the tweet was removed. Well, I guess maybe it wasn't. I guess it wasn't removed. Either way, Liam O'Mara deleted his account after she incited her mob of supporters on him. And again, if Candace Owens was a genuine actor, someone who was a person of color who was, disaffected by the way that the Democratic Party has treated the Black community, which is completely valid. Again, the crime bill, huge example of that, elevating figures like Joe Biden. It's disgusting. And I would never vote for a Democrat. I don't vote for Democrats, but if I was a Black person, I certainly would not associate with the Democrats. So, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. And again, if Candace Owens was a good faith actor that was coming out and saying, I can't vote for Democrats, and maybe even genuinely expressing some curiosity or interest in the GOP, that would be one thing. However, like I said, she's a paid spokesperson, a paid propagandist that's intentionally misinforming people on the margins of our society and redirecting their frustration with our system and their pain into the Republican Party. Again, she's the kind of person that will, happily accuse someone else of quote unquote pulling the race
I'm not
card.
coming to the defense of Candace Owens. All I'm saying is that I don't love this tweet, and I don't love I think that you can analyze that in a vacuum and say that, no, I don't think, and you're right, I don't think that Candace Owens is a good person, and I think that she has, done all of the things that you just, correctly identified that she has done, but I still think that this is clumsy at best. I wouldn't have made my point in this way if I was coming after Candace Owens. I think with the extreme history of violence that the Ku Klux Klan, the terror that the Ku Klux Klan has imposed on the Black community, I personally, I feel like using that kind of imagery to make your point, I think that one, like I said, I don't think that was his intention about it, but I think you're opening the door to something that, just completely takes away from the point that he could have correctly made in another way.
I mean, I think that's fair enough, but I mean, in that sense, can you not joke about the U.S. military because of the terrorism that they inflict abroad?
I think that the specific historical context, and I get that a lot of people, in the from my view and the way that I'm approaching this, I just don't think that you can remove the context specific, that this is a white man sending a Black woman what is very obviously supposed to be a Klan hood. So I just think if you put that in a vacuum and you acknowledge that, then yeah, I don't think that's a great move. I don't think that that's a great way to present any point, especially given America's history. So
I actually think it's a great way to make this point. It's a visual way. It's a funny way. It's a way that people can immediately understand. And
I disagree. I disagree.
She's literally using the same tactics that violent white supremacists have historically used to justify white supremacy. I don't understand how that's not Klansman-esque.
Okay, I just think that it's a bridge too far, and I think it's inappropriate, and I don't think it was a good move. I don't think that it's acceptable to use that kind of iconography as a way of making a clear, good point. That's not a point that I would make, and no, I think it's clumsy, and I didn't like it. I don't know what else to say about it. We disagree on this.
That's fair. We may disagree. Again, if this was someone who was not Candace Owens, who was someone I did think was a good faith actor, then I would probably, agree with you more or less. However, like I said, Candace Owens is the kind of person who will turn on anyone who's an actual victim of racism and say, why are you pulling the race card? She will do that over and over again and deny, underplay, and undermine the real reality of white supremacy, racism, let alone imperialism and all that. So now for her to selectively pull this, and say,
yeah, it doesn't reflect anything good on Candace Owens. That doesn't, 100%, it doesn't. And yeah, I think that she's being incredibly selective and hypocritical, and she has made the case against countless people who were justifiably, giving examples of their racist experiences. I don't disagree with any of that. I just think that I think it was a clumsy move from Liam. And I wouldn't have tweeted that myself.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, that's a fair opinion. I guess that I just generally think that, when you're pointing out when you're pointing out the fact that someone is clearly a propagandist for what could be described accurately as a white supremacist movement, which is the modern day GOP. I don't think you're necessarily, above that kind of criticism or comparison. It's just simply, I just don't give a shit.
I don't think that she's above that kind of criticism at all. I think that my only point was that if I think that, and it's not that I don't think it's fair for somebody like Liam to call out, Candace Owens for what is obviously like her role in perpetuating systemic racism. My problem was the way that he presented it. I think I think that it's I didn't like it. I got a bad feeling when I saw it, and that's all I can say, right? Like, I'm not trying to like out woke anybody. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, I didn't love that, and that's all. I don't think that Liam's like a bad guy. I don't think that he was like trying to like terrorize Candace Owens. I think that he probably feels really guilty. That's why he deleted his whole fucking Twitter. Like, I'm just saying, I didn't love the tweet. I thought it was probably a bad idea.